Welcome back, Eigen family. Did you guys miss us last week? Don't worry, your boys are back. So we're back again. We've got, just make sure you guys like, share, comment, subscribe. If you haven't done so already, check out the website, Eigenbros.com, Eigenbros on Instagram, Eigenbros on Twitter, Eigenbros2 on TikTok. And then patrons, guys, once again, thank you so much for your support. If you guys want to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/Eigenbros. And yeah, after all that, let's begin. So I think we're just gonna do like a kind of loose episode. I don't know if we really need to force.
Well, I did. We have our esteemed colleague here, Jackson.
Some of you guys maybe remember him from back in the days.
Yes.
We haven't had him on in a little bit of time, so I'm sure some viewers won't recognize him just yet. But yeah, I just feel like we just keep it a loose episode, you know.
Yeah. So Jackson, you want to give us the listeners an update on what you do? Your specialty, your.
Sure.
Background? Yeah,
I'd be happy to. So I am a PhD student in biological science, and I particularly study the evolution of marine invertebrates. So my background is basically just studying anything in the ocean that does not have a spine. I work on their
I was going to make a joke
sexist.
Yeah, I was thinking one too.
Some politician.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just throw in a politician or something.
Yeah. Any random one nowadays, because that's all you got to do.
Am I peaking on the volume, by the way?
No, that was.
Oh, Jackson's peaking.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm peaking.
But you're good.
My
Y'all
bad.
are good. I'll take care of it. I'm the producer.
Yeah.
Okay.
For you video listeners.
Yeah, remember Jackson also, it doesn't have to be that clean and, you know, we could talk about whatever the fuck, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to, because I want to get into the weird. I know we talked about weird sex slugs. I think last time you were on.
No, was that the last one?
Yeah.
No, couldn't have been. He came because that was at your old place. He came for another one recently-ish.
Huh. Okay. Well,
I don't know what it was, but
let's just say this: Jackson he gave us a lot of interesting information. About flies that what did you call it? Testicular hijacking?
It was either a fly or beetle species. I forget, but it was like I think it was called testicular hijacking, where basically a male makes another male carry its own sperm and inseminate females with its own sperm.
Right.
Yeah.
So which one is the alpha, though? I want to know.
Well, I don't even know.
In that scenario.
Yeah, in this scenario, I really don't know because, like I said, I forgot the specific details. I just remember reading about it in some weird sexual selection review, and I was like, that's really crazy.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was trying. Well, I asked you before the cameras were on. I was like, how do you how does the other fly allow that to happen?
Well, it's not that they allow it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
But yeah.
No, I was gonna say it's like animals that eat each other. All right, you know what? You bested me.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, but that is a good example because when animals eat each other, a lot of times they can fight back, right?
I'm imagining that they are fighting back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a situation where they are fighting back potentially.
I don't really know because all I know is that it was some sort of insect that did this, and I think that it's not just only insects. I think some other invertebrates might do it as well. But that's really all the information I have. I just know what happens with the sperm and the testicles, not so much about their intra-specific interactions with them fighting and bucking each other off or what have you.
Yeah. You know, recently, speaking of weird sex stuff, I recently learned that menstruation, like external menstruation, only happens in like 4 species.
No shit.
Yeah. It's like humans.
Dogs.
No, dogs are internal.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they only menstruate, I think, if they're fertilized, basically internally, and so like, what is it called?
Yeah. Well, then how do they get rid of the waste product?
It's covert. The body breaks it down, or the vagina breaks it down internally.
Interesting.
But with like external menstruation, which humans do, I think certain bat species do, and then mice, like a shrew, and then another mice species.
Imagine if that was Batman's superpower.
I'm menstruating. Yeah. It's that time of the month for me. Have you seen the new Batman, by the way?
I just saw it Friday.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Nice.
give us a quick review. Up, down, middle.
Up for me.
Hell yeah.
And I think that a lot of people going into it are going to expect something different from what it was. Because, there's a lot of talk about it being darker than the other Batman movies.
Yeah.
So I think people went into it expecting more
More
gore
darkness.
and violence,
Yeah.
more so than the darker themes. In my opinion, I think that the themes and the overall feel and aesthetic of the movie was definitely darker than most of the other ones where Batman's out there like beating the shit out of people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's Robert Pattinson. He's not like an action star, really.
Yeah.
So he's not out there just like, stomping dudes' skulls in or anything. But what happens in the movie, like the plot line, like how people die and what it's saying about the world of Gotham, I think is very entertaining for me. I feel like it's much more of like a thriller than it was like an action movie. So I think people going into expecting after watching like Justice League or Batman vs Superman or any Marvel movie are going to be it's going to be different from that. It's less of an action movie as much as it's like suspense, drama, thriller thing.
Yeah, because he's like brooding, right? Like,
He's very broody.
He had
and what I
eyeshadow
really
in one of the pictures I saw. I was
well,
like,
yeah, because like I mean, they do that with a lot of Batman when they do the eyeshadow, so the cowl doesn't show their skin up here.
Ah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just looks like the white eyes up there because he has the eyeshadow. But I think that I think Robert Pattinson made a good Batman because Batman should be awkward. Let's be honest here. Batman should be awkward. He was an orphan kid who saw both his parents get gunned down in front of him.
Yeah.
So that's like automatic PTSD. Like there's off that alone, you have all this stuff. But not only that, he has like the world weighing down on him where he's being raised by his butler in a huge mansion that he has to inherit all of Wayne Industries and stuff,
That's a lot to take on as a kid.
That's a lot to take on as a kid. He should not be socially aware. That whole like charming, I'm out here suave Batman thing. Kind of like really? Should he be? No, he should be like weird as hell. And I think that Robert Pattinson he can be kind of awkward sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I think it was really cool because sometimes in the movie he didn't say stuff, but there's some times where like, someone would say something and Batman's like doing the whole like just staring thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, dude, are you gonna? Like, it looks like they're waiting for him to say something, but Batman's just like being awkward, and I really like that because he shouldn't be a social butterfly. He shouldn't be able to handle himself very well and all that stuff.
Yeah, I heard that the realism was a welcome thing because they what is it called? They audience tested like spoiler alert. I don't know if you've seen the trailers, but they audience tested the Penguin with like a top hat or something and the monocle, and people did not like that.
Right.
Well, that was that the villain in this one?
It's not the main villain.
Yeah, it's not the main.
Oh,
villain.
they just wanted to see if they wanted the traditional Tim Burton, or if they wanted the new dark brooding.
Well, and also like this Batman movie, it takes place in the modern era. That's the thing.
Oh,
like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I mean, I think this isn't a spoiler, just because we already know Batman's parents get killed, right?
Right.
But the thing is, like, with a lot of the comics and movies, they'll update it to a certain time, because a lot of these things originally appeared like in the 1950s and 60s and stuff, right? But in this version, Batman's parents were killed in like 2001 or something. So it's like it's funny to think about because people are saying, okay, we know the story about Batman's parents. They were leaving a movie theater. And then they got gunned down, right? But it's funny because it's like, okay, what movies were out in 2001? They might have been leaving Fast and Furious,
Yeah.
There is something about that.
They probably just like, or like some other 2001's movie. And then they get gunned down.
That's tough. That's really tough.
It doesn't hit the same way.
And I'm like, and I think it was before, like, I don't know if it was before or after 9/11 when it happened too. So it's just like thinking about it. It's like Batman had to see his parents get killed and then 9/11 hit.
9/11 happened, yeah.
So
that's a very good point.
He had a really tough time. He had to see the housing crisis, the recession. People don't think about what happened in Gotham during those times.
Right.
So he should be very awkward. He should like he has to look at like Alfred, what's going on in TV? Like what's happening? And like Alfred's over here like freaking out,
This is a Batman that I guess grew up with the internet.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like extremely probably online. So,
yes, like Batman probably has some crypto. Like
yeah,
Wayne
this
Industries,
Batman.
Probably.
like with Wayne Industry resource, he probably got in real soon.
He's probably got his own coin, honestly.
Wayne coin or something.
Yeah, Wayne coin. Or
Exactly.
Batcoin. And they're like,
Batcoin.
what is this Batcoin doing so good? I wonder.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Like-
damn. I'm interested in watching it just because of that. But yeah, I mean, bats menstruate.
Oh, yeah, that's where we came from, right?
That's funny.
Yeah, bats menstruate, dude. Believe it or not, this is crazy.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And it's literally one of 4 species.
How Corona came out?
I mean, that would be something.
yeah, that'd be interesting.
No, but externally. So other mammal species do it internally,
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
and I think it's still speculative. I don't know. I was reading the wiki,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
and so like they're like citation needed. So it's like a lot of
Right.
it is like I guess speculative, but they were saying that
Why is it speculative, though?
I think
They
because
can't
they're
just
saying
watch one for a day?
well, no, I'm saying like they don't know whether like covert or concealed menstruation, like where it's like happens internally and you don't
Mhm.
see the bleeding, whether like what's the evolutionary advantage between that and external bleeding? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it has to be like when you said what did you say? You said confirmed or something?
Covert? What do you mean?
No, you were saying that it was like they weren't sure.
Yeah, they weren't sure. They're not sure. Like it's still speculative what the advantages are
Oh, the advantages are speculative.
of having external menstruation versus
I see.
like
I see.
having it just happen internally.
Or maybe there is no advantages. Maybe it's just simply
Well,
just
that's what they're. I mean, that's what some people were saying.
Okay.
But the only reasonable thing that I read was that because these are 4 separate mammal species,
Mhm.
sort of coming upon external menstruation on their own.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe there is some type of reason behind this.
Yeah, they think that because the internal or the covert menstruation makes it to where the zygote, once the egg is fertilized, the ovarian walls thicken,
Okay.
and that only happens, I think, if it's fertilized. But that means that the mammal has to basically now put a lot of resources in making that, that egg come to a full-born
Mhm.
animal. However, in species that externally menstruate, there's a lot more likelihood that that you can just if the hormones or whatever or the environment isn't good,
Mm-hmm.
like the body rejects the baby. So
Okay.
so it's easier to reject the baby with external menstruation. apparently.
Ah, okay.
So like, but with the zygote that
On to
has
the next.
yeah. So but in the internal one, the covert one, apparently I don't just from reading
Yeah,
this
yeah. This is a
Wikipedia article.
speculative reasoning.
Right.
Okay.
And apparently with the internal one, that doesn't happen as often. You get a lot more stillbirths and a lot of like
Ah, I
a
see.
lot of stuff like that. So
But maybe the internal animals, so I could make another claim potentially. Maybe, and Jackson, of course, jump in whenever you see fit as well, too.
he's collecting the data.
Yeah, yeah, he's about to shit on us in a second.
No, I'm just listening because
he's about to be like, and you're all wrong.
Actually,
no, I mean like I'm just listening.
Yeah.
This is the first.
I
I've
guess
heard
the
of
other
it.
thing I was thinking maybe that another reason maybe some animals will do it internally is because maybe some of those other ones, like I know dogs, they produce in litters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So the cost to losing a baby is not as bad in a litter producing animal as opposed to humans when we only, do one at a time, sometimes twins,
Right.
even rarer, triplets or more. So maybe that's another reason. It's like an optimization thing where maybe the inner
The cost of offspring.
yeah, the inner menstruation I could see being beneficial in the fact that you're not leaving a trail for a predator, right? Because predators can smell blood, like bears or whatever can smell blood like insane distances away. So if you're menstruating, then that could be a potential threat to the mother and her child and her children. So it's like you will sacrifice a little bit of that cost by having the covert menstruation, but you're going to still produce in litters anyway. So
Yeah.
the downside of that is not as heavy for that kind of animal. So that's all my thoughts of speculation. I don't know if that's actually real.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't even know if you can.
Huh.
If you can even
To
corroborate
add to
that.
that?
Yeah, probably
I mean, it makes. I
We're
mean,
two physicists, so you were an
I mean,
ex-biologist back in the
yeah,
day.
No, it was just striking to me because I'm like, okay, well, I mean, if humans are one of the few species that do this,
Yeah.
like dolphins. Okay, because the other, it's also interesting because the other internal or covert menstruation species, they still have an estrous cycle, which means they go through heat.
Okay.
So it's like, but humans don't have that either. Like,
Oh, no?
well, right? I don't know if they. I don't know if this is speculative either.
Would this fall even under your umbrella, Jackson?
So, this is, what we're talking about is like interdisciplinary within biology, because some of the stuff you're talking about is, you're talking about life history evolution. That's basically what you're talking about here. Like how many offspring do you have? How much investment do you give for the offspring? When do you mature? When do you give birth?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of these things are on seasons versus human beings can give birth year round. There's a lot here. And I think that the question almost gets more into like human anatomy, embryology type stuff that like I don't really know too much about human hormones and a lot of that stuff. And human beings are besides a few other species, are the most studied animal on the planet. So I'm pretty sure someone out there, speculator, has an answer to it. I just don't know what it is since I work with sea slugs and urchins and stuff.
Well, I
Right,
think
right.
the leading theory, this is Wikipedia disclaimer,
Mhm.
is the choosy uterus theory. So it's saying that the uterus in external menstruation is more selective of the baby.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it like,
We want the cream of the crop, baby.
I guess so. I guess that's probably that's speculative why this thing even happens.
Okay, yeah.
There's
Makes sense.
There's a lot there. I mean, a lot of the stuff you're talking about is just making me think about like how they're in the uterus in some species. They actually have like cannibalism between the developing fetuses.
Whoa.
And they can get like
Wait, the other fetus eats the other fetus?
basically like there are some cases where they can absorb another one with them.
That happens with like conjoined twins, right?
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that sometimes when people say, "Oh, I actually had like a twin that didn't fully develop inside of him," like sometimes that might be because they absorbed or went around another developing one.
Yeah.
There are also some things where, actually, my lab mate,
Does that make you a stronger person?
probably not, because you're just wondering why you have the bony growth here that has to go through massive surgery and stuff.
I thought you would get their powers like Kirby.
No, it's like you had like a undeveloped human being off your body.
That
So-
hurts.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
brutal.
That hurts.
And then there's like,
What if it like winked at you and
oh,
you couldn't
no,
communicate? It's
stop,
like
stop this,
Total
stop.
Recall.
No, stop.
yeah, and it's like not truly alive, but it's still like
This hurts.
connected
Right.
to your circular system. and
Oh
everything.
man.
This hurts to imagine.
Yeah.
We have
But-
to.
Yeah, there is
But, like,
something about it.
If you look, this is kind of like a situation where you see a lot of people who have like, sometimes in some cases, people have extra limbs. They absorbed a twin.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it didn't fully develop the other twin.
Right, right.
There's also things just in the realm of like biology where like, oh, there's a developing fetus. It just absorbs the other one, just like, I don't know, destroys it. Within like certain shark species, like some sharks will give live birth, and they actually have videos of like baby sharks within the mother, like eating another smaller baby shark that's its
Wow.
sibling before it's even like truly born outside of it.
Right.
So
Man, there can only be one.
yeah, and then I just think about, when you're talking about the choosy uterus, like how there's a lot of absorption. There's a lot of like situations where where a mother will get stressed and just like miscarry out in nature. It's very common. Yeah.
Yeah. Because giving birth is like such a. I mean, it's super costly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Like
especially out in real nature, it's like high risk, right?
Right, and that's why like a lot of the animals out in nature, like if you see, I mean, you've seen the videos of the baby giraffe getting born. It falls down and it immediately stands
Yeah,
up, ready to run within like minutes.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Because like human beings aren't like that. A lot of
Right.
other species aren't like that, who aren't like prey items a lot. Like,
Yeah, makes sense.
But humans are also selectively. I mean, we're so social that it's almost built into us to need
Oh, a group
help.
of people.
Yeah,
yeah,
to need
yeah,
help.
Yeah.
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 So babies take forever to
Right.
come out.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with human beings too is that we're like a lot of mammals where, you know, will gestate for a very long time, usually have one offspring and put a lot of care into it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The fact that we can walk upright and the fact that we can communicate like we do is pretty overpowered when it comes down to ensuring like survival.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely OP.
Babies
sure.
are OP too, though. Like babies can actually like their upper body strength is insane.
Really?
Yeah, like they have like a grip strength of like in scaling,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
their grip strength is like
Is
better than-
unusually high.
Yeah.
Okay.
I, mean, I think it makes
Interesting.
sense if you have to
Yeah.
hold on to a mother or something. you know,
Yeah.
but-
Yeah.
And they can also instinctively like if you throw them in a pool or something,
Swim.
Oh,
they can
right.
swim. They can
Right.
also like
They
just
don't
know not
breathe
to
in
yeah.
water. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They right themselves in like. You know,
Yeah.
Insane.
I guess that's our kind of like weird instinctual markers that we still have.
mhm.
Yeah, I wonder if we. But this is the thing. Like, it's almost like all. I don't know if this is like a what is it called?
Epigenetic?
If this is an epigenetic switch that just happens, like, oh, now I fully gain consciousness in my brain.
And now I can't swim.
Now I can't swim.
Yeah, I always wondered that. I'm like, why does that shut off all of a sudden?
Like, come back, please.
yeah.
I've almost died twice drowning.
Yeah, I mean, I got no clue because even then, like, if you toss like me or someone else into the water right now, even if I did flip myself over and just like avoid breathing, I'll probably still sink. Our density is way
Right,
different too,
right.
you know,
Yeah.
between a baby.
Right.
Damn.
Yeah. So even
it's
if I
interesting.
did it, it's not like a baby's out there just like. You know, like
That'd be cool,
like
though.
natural freestyle
Yeah.
stroke, like limping to your nose.
Right.
Dude, it's so crazy. Babies are and then babies shrill voices.
Right. Let's just say yeah, airplanes going by. Hopefully it doesn't pick up. I don't
Yeah.
think it is.
It's a baby flying in the air.
I heard y'all motherfuckers talking about me.
I'm sure they've had those string of baby movies where the babies do spy
Baby Genius.
babies, baby geniuses,
boss baby and
babies.
stuff. Yeah.
Boss baby.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, I never watched it.
Yeah, it's not good.
I figured.
But yeah, no, babies are insane, especially human babies. They also have big brains. I think comparatively,
Mhm.
compared to other species, they're like
Right.
also very OP. So we make very overpowered babies.
Well, I mean,
We're overpowered.
I
Our
don't
brains are just, brains are OP.
yeah, but I don't know if overpowered is really like babies is like really the right thing. Because if you compare it to most mammals, like another mammal, like I remember listening to this thing on YouTube where it was going over this guy who did this very unethical experiment where he tried to raise a chimp with like an actual human and try to basically treat them exactly the same. Obviously it wasn't going to work out, but I think
Yeah.
it was back then dudes were obsessed with eugenics and
Right,
nature
right.
versus nurture, so it can be more racist to people, so
Right.
so they so like you say, oh, immediately within a few weeks we noticed the difference between the chimpanzee and his human sibling. It's like, well, duh. It's like the chimpanzee has like the bone density of like nearly that of an adult chimp, way stronger, like way more close in behavior to an adult chimp than like a 2-year-old baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's like even just like that. If you put a human being up against most other mammals,
We're fucked.
like a baby's always going to lose for the most part.
Yeah.
A baby versus like a puppy of like a month is going to lose.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Right. Our brain. What, we good?
No, I said our cuteness factor is the
Oh.
only thing that helps us.
Right.
Okay.
It's like
I thought something was wrong with the podcast audio or something.
in most babies, like the whole entire thing is a scream for the adult.
Yeah.
Adult humans are OP. Even though we like to say we're weak compared to like
Yeah.
lions and everything, it's like
Yeah.
we were looking at like literally large, charismatic, strong animals that are
Right.
fighting all day long. But like human beings are still overpowered. Our
Yeah.
babies,
Right.
and the thing is, our babies don't need to be overpowered because our adults, because of how social we are,
Right.
and how protective we are, and the fact we can pick up our baby and carry it like a wildebeest can't really pick up its baby
Right.
out of like the mouth of a lion like a human being
True.
can. And that kind of is a trade-off because we do a lot of nurture for them, because like if we survival in later stages of life and survival through baby stage is still so great because human beings are so involved in it. In fact, speaking about like menstruation and stuff, that's actually why they speculate human beings. That's what some people speculate, that human beings go through menopause because it helps the survival of babies more.
Oh yeah.
Why is that?
Because from the theory that I heard, they believe that human beings go through menopause because it helps increase survival, because like most families will have multiple generations, right? Most human societies have it to where like you had communities of people helping to take care of the children together, Human beings still do this, like when we have school, when we have our grandmother come and take care of us, even though like grandmother, like she can't reproduce anymore, but she can still increase her fitness by helping make sure that her offspring.
I see. So it's
offspring
like a
makes it.
guaranteed way to make it so that the older mothers will take care of the future offspring, or one future offspring.
So there's a lot going into it. Like there's arguments for like why do human beings senesce? Why do we go through like get older and lose like organ function? Like why do human beings go through it at this stage or that stage? Why aren't human beings able to become immortal and avoid cancer and stuff? There's a lot of weird stuff going on with how it's hard to select for certain things at later stages of life because we don't reproduce anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the arguments that they make. Basically, evolution is a change in allele frequency over time. And if you have your
change in allele frequency.
Can
you explain?
So, like, if you have your genes, right? And your genes have certain alleles that code for certain traits within your body. Just to make a very simplified version of this, I know any biologists listening are like, they want to talk about codons and mRNA. I'm breaking it down very
You just got to say, like, you got to qualify your statements on the podcast with this kind of stuff. You just say, like, I'm simplifying or whatever. As long as you qualify yourself, I think you're all right. We do this all the time.
A gross oversimplification.
Okay,
incredibly
cool.
big one. But basically, different forms of a gene, right? If I were to simplify it. Now, and basically, you want to pass on your genes. I mean, that's your fitness. Your fitness isn't really like how strong or how old you live. If you lived like 800 years old but never had an offspring, you didn't pass on any genes, your fitness is effectively zero. If you come out here and you live only for 20 years but you have like 18 baby mamas, you outcompeted most human beings.
Right.
So
yeah.
so you passed on more of your own genes than others, right? And the thing is, there is a little bit of complexity here, because say you say, oh, cool, I pass on my genes. I got 8 kids. All 8 kids die. That's the end of your line if you can't reproduce anymore.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. Your genes aren't going to keep going throughout the population and through time. So, you have to increase the survival for your offspring as well, right? It helps you to make sure your offspring make it. And if your offspring's make it as well. Some people make that argument for why a lot of longer-lived animals, like elephants, do this a lot too. Elephants have like grandmothers help them out, along with the mothers and everything. I don't know if elephants go through a menopause, but I know that orcas do. Orcas often have grandmothers in there, like helping out too.
Interesting.
Because they live like over 100 years old.
Damn.
So that's what I heard, and I recently heard about this, and there's a lot of questions I have to like, okay, what sort of testing does one do for this sort of stuff? It's kind of hard to test on orca populations if they're like been around for like 500 years here and everyone lives to like 80 plus.
Right.
Damn.
But that's what I heard as a way for it to evolve, because it helps increase the likelihood that like, okay, giving birth is a risk. And in a lot of organisms, the more birth you give, the shorter your lifespan is. I have no idea if that's true for human beings, but I know that for like basically flies.
From the stress.
I don't know. I don't know, but basically, having a grandma who's also not taking care of her own offspring.
It's another one to offload the work to.
yeah, offloads the work and also increases the likelihood that grandchild makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I'm
true.
not limiting. Like I said, this is just like the nature argument for it. Obviously,
Mhm.
human society is very different. Nurture means more than nature nowadays. So if you like, you can easily raise a kid, be perfectly fine on your own elsewhere.
You
Yeah.
know, another question I was kind of thinking of just when you were speaking there, like why is it so obvious that fitness is the metric to measure all evolutionary success by? Is it just like why is it not a better life to, let's say, if you're just a selfish species where you can just take in all the resources, capitalize for yourself, but then maybe die off. But like, I guess it's like, what is the I wonder what the compulsion is for organisms to multiply. Is it just the fact that you have to multiply to survive continuously? So it's like this weird, like what compels a living thing to even want to multiply? Like, why is that necessarily better, or is it just an optimization problem? Because it seems like humans, we have found like this kind of optimization where we live long enough, but also don't have that many a crazy amount of kids typically,
Mhm.
to where we kind of get the best of both. Like you get to capitalize on your own lifetime at the same time as having children you know, um, to carry on, the legacy or whatever
Right.
down the generations.
So it's hard to say. That's like asking me like, why does life exist? Why does
Mm-hmm.
life keep persisting? It's hard for me to really answer or say like, why is it compulsion? It's like I don't know. I can speculate certain things, but I'll tell you this: say we do have some species who are like that, right? Indifferent to reproducing. We're not going to see any of them right now. Basically, even if
True.
even if they
Good
did
point.
even if they did actually come about, like say you have like four species, two of which keep wanting to reproduce, two of which are like whatever, I'm just going to accrue as much resources and die without offspring. You're not going to see any of them anymore. They filter themselves out. So the only ones who we're going to see nowadays are those who have that compulsion to
I see.
reproduce.
So
So
just by default, if you don't have that compulsion to reproduce, then you're just not going to exist ever
you're
again.
I mean, you might come about, but you're not going to exist for very long. So
Right.
if you
But
if
does that happen? I wonder. Like, how often does that actually happen? Like, would that just be a? I guess from now, since life has been around for so long,
Mhm.
that probably would have to be just a random mutation within certain species, and it
Uh,
probably doesn't happen that often because
Yeah.
you would. I guess the default state would be mostly that almost all species have the compulsion to multiply. Is that correct to say?
Um, it's hard to like say because a lot of times it's not even like they're composed to as much as it just happens. Like we have so many of these animals out here who literally don't have brains, who still will have reproductive organs to reproduce, right?
Mm.
That just like naturally do it. Like if I can grab a lot of animals and like inject them with something, they immediately just like start releasing their gametes, their sperm and eggs. So it's really hard to say if they feel compulsion to do so versus that's just like naturally what they do. It's like me asking you like why are your cells compelled to like go into your bloodstream and move around? It's like I don't know, dude. They just
Mm.
do. and,
Just do
and
it.
why do you want to keep making sure that there's more of you going around? I don't
Mhm.
know, dude. It's like it's hard.
Yeah,
It just is.
I've been speculating about this recently,
Yeah.
and we kind of talked about this last night
Did we?
with a couple. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe I hinted at it, but
I had too many
um,
beers. I think I don't remember.
there's this, because you're saying why does the biological imperative even exist?
Right.
Like, why is
Why
it?
is that? I guess that is kind of a like, what is the meaning of life kind of question.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, I think I'm speculating here, but I think physicists are kind of at this nexus point where it's like things are about information, and if you look at biology, life is almost like this. If it comes down to it, it's like what did our buddy CJ friend he told us about what Richard Dawkins meme, the whole meme thing, the selfish gene,
Right.
the primordial soup picture of the gene that is a replicator, and it serves to create a if it's a right-handed molecule, it creates a left-handed molecule just by existing. You know what I mean? Like mirror self, boom, and just starts creating a bunch of string of molecules or whatever that replicate themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the base level, it's information encoded, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a recipe. It's almost like the cookbook existed before.
Oh,
The
we
cook-
did talk about this.
Yeah, it's
I
almost
remember
like
that line.
it's like the cookbook existed before the cook or any of the other how do you say ingredients? Yeah.
Mm.
It's like a weird thing where information is almost at the base level.
Damn, I
of
didn't realize how
everything.
deep the topic was at the time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, you know, biologists have this like question. It's like, you know, virus, is it alive? And it's like a virus's preoccupation is just replicating its
Right.
the information encoded in that protein capsule. It
Mhm.
doesn't, you know what I mean? And you talk about organisms that don't even have to be cognizant or conscious or whatever to propagate information.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's almost like the universe it creates this like it organizes matter and how do I say this? It organizes matter according to this recipe of what we call RNA or DNA or whatever
Mm-hmm.
as the more complicated version, but it's almost like we tell, not that we tell. Fuck, I can't even. I don't even
Yeah,
have the
it's so
language.
hard, I know.
I'm thinking about it. I'm formulating these thoughts as I speak them, but it's almost as if the information there is more fundamental, and how life is more preoccupied with creating what I think is more like constructs of information. It doesn't really matter what that comes out as opposed to propagating information. That makes sense?
That's very interesting.
I
yeah.
think it makes sense, and
Yeah.
it's just really interesting because ultimately, yeah, the primordial soup, we go all the way back, right? Life probably started off as like a very short, you know, chemical compound or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, it just kept replicating itself.
Yeah.
For some
And
reason.
it's like it's hard to say, like, oh, was there some sort of spiritual reason, or was there sort of like biological imperative? Did it feel horny? Probably not. You know, like it's not like that. And even then, you're like, okay, why we compulsed to spread our information in particular? I don't know. It seems like it's just like such a
Well,
base.
if you want to go to the horniness aspect for humans, at least spreading our information, I think it might just be because maybe we are so there's like some weird thing that happens when the more conscious a being becomes, it almost is more distant from its what would you say? It's like base level instincts in some sense.
Yeah.
And then maybe that compulsion is the only thing keeping us to produce, because at least this is me all speculating, so you can jump in if this is wrong shit. But this is what I'm kind of like trying to intuit right now. So I'm thinking that maybe there is some correlation between how smart something becomes and how much you need that kind of that impulse or that instinctive driver, because otherwise you're not going to be able to just run off of that, let's say, like that base machine code in some sense, where you can just propagate your information, because now your brain is so complicated and you have so many more functions now that the drive to multiply is now competing with all of these other functions. So it gets drowned out in some sense, and it's not as forefront in that propagation of information. Let's say if we want to go down to that, to that level. So maybe it needs to pull itself back in some sense to be able to continue doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's hard to say, because like I feel like in order to really have a deeply nuanced conversation on this, you need like so many different people. You need like a neuroscientist, you need an evolutionary biologist, you need an anthropologist, probably several anthropologists, because they're the ones who really know human cultures and stuff.
Right.
Sociologists, like you need people who do tons of different things, because like we could talk there's a whole entire studies where people talk about how like brain damage can change your impulse control. Certain drugs and consuming these things over certain years can change your impulse control, can change how you feel stuff, like the fact that like erectile dysfunction exists, and the fact that like, we're going through hormonal
Uterus
changes
fucked up
alone
for
can
that
do
one, by the
stuff.
way.
Huh? The universe. Well, that's the thing. It's like, and then you were asking, okay, what's the purpose? Why? I think for a lot of people, it's like, that doesn't matter. All we got to do is the most important part is knowing that it does happen.
Right.
Trying to figure out. Even we did figure out why it's happened originally and what really kicked it all off. It's like, okay, great, now what?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There's always another why after it, right?
And the thing is, like I said, we're talking about almost like scientific terms where we're almost talking about this as if human beings, like human society, doesn't play a larger role than like the evolution of that, right? And they play such an intertwined role in how things developed. It really is missing a lot to like talk about like the biological imperative and how that drowns out an evolution of our brain and everything. Because like, dude, if I tossed you out in a developing country, right? Some people might, tend to have more children over there because different reasons to the royal family having children, different reasons to like why I may abstain of having children, right? Even though the royal family are like, richer and everything, doesn't like translate up. It's hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can say that, human beings, like obviously we are biological creatures and we have plenty of things that we do that have to do with like, biology. But even then, you could just be like the horniest dude on the planet and say, okay, I just not going to do this. I can't do this. I can't have children, Like right now, people actively choose not to reproduce for a number of reasons, whether that's like religion, which isn't part of biology and stuff, like
Right.
and then you might say, okay, why did this replicating molecule end up becoming this thing that developed this thing that might ruin its ability to replicate itself? It's like,
right.
maybe because there's a lot of randomness. I don't even know if it's
Right.
for me. Like, I kind of feel like nothing really has a purpose, and that's kind of calming because I'm like, I don't need to theory craft so much.
Reason, rationalize.
Like, I just say, okay, I just know that it is.
Right.
Is there a why? I don't know.
Yeah.
But we can look into how.
Yeah.
So
No, that's fair. I mean, like I'm coming from a vantage point of there is like, how do I say this, man? Because this is all such a new thing to me. But in looking at as information being more fundamental to all of this, it has to do with entropy, how the universe lends to
It's always increasing entropy. Is what
right.
you're saying?
And organisms, for a while, I think physicists were battling with the fact that it's like, why do organisms exist, right? They increase their entropy. Sorry, they decrease entropy locally, right?
Yeah.
But they increase entropy globally,
Yes.
like overall,
Right.
of a planet, for instance.
Which why you would even need to decrease entropy locally, I don't know.
But it almost seems like there's this weird conspiring kind of thing, like life is a battle against entropy, right? It's like
right.
life is almost like it's constructing or ordering matter, but in that process of ordering matter, the cost of disorganizing matter is greater.
Yeah.
It's like a cost paid to the universe. Where
Right. It's like you will never win this battle.
Yeah.
But locally where you sit, you can kind of win.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And it's like, why did this molecule decide to do this? It's not even like decide. I'm like, man, it just, these things just worked out, smashed together, and just naturally just started doing it as far as I'm concerned,
Is there no what are some, like, are there any real compelling theories for you for why life, like how life could even start at that real fundamental level? Like, why does a proton that eventually combines. Like we can cover the physics kind of makes sense. Like it's like,
Right.
okay, the protons and electrons, they eventually get together, but that's because electromagnetic forces. That makes sense. Then they form into star clusters. That makes sense.
Right.
Stars eventually will burst out with different elements. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then,
Then
why do
those
those
elements?
Yeah, why do those elements have to combine to form life? Like, why does that have? Why is that? Is there anything that we can get from you that somehow makes that link?
I mean, yeah, like I said, now you're starting to talk. You're getting back into the whole like, why does life exist type thing. You know,
I
And
see. I'm
it's like-
becoming a broken record right
Yeah,
now.
no, I
I'm
mean,
just
like,
like,
I mean-
shh, can
well,
you
I mean,
stop
like-
asking me this stupid ass
No,
question?
no. I mean, I think that's the biggest question for basically science and human beings throughout
Right.
all of everything. And look at all the answers that people gave. They're so hard to answer that people like say, okay, this must have been intentional because it just seems so crazy, right? A rock, I don't know.
Well,
I
not even
started thinking-
intentional. What would even be the non-intentional version of this happening? Like, I just cannot make the link in my brain, and this is probably something that no one can. Just why, like how I'll say how instead of why. So how, these elements, like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen,
Mhm.
those all I get how they form. That
Right.
kind of is okay for me to intrinsically understand.
Right.
But then eventually, how do those come up to form the building blocks of proteins and RNA? Like,
It's
I
that
don't see it.
primordial
I don't
soup,
see
bro.
it. I don't see it.
Yeah, honestly, like I mean, when it comes to that, there's plenty on. Like, you can just go to YouTube and watch like a TED talk or a documentary on like how they do it, because like there are literally people who have, created simple organic compounds in labs like well into the last century, and in potentially even before that, out of completely inorganic materials. So. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know if it just started off as some like small nucleic acid or small protein that eventually just like, for whatever reason, around itself, linked to itself to another one and got longer. I don't really know at all. 'Cause I mean, there are just so many things that are going on there that you could just talk about. Like, okay, what's the chemistry behind it? When did chemistry turn into biochemistry? At what point was that? Why did this molecule just not instantly dissolve instead of like forming? Did it form several times on its own, or did it just like original compound somehow I don't know.
That's when a lipid bilayer formed, and then you had cells.
Well, yeah,
Right,
the thing is,
right.
like with with like that sort of stuff, you get certain cells that don't really conform to a lot of that stuff. Like people talk about how the differences between gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria, other microbes are out there. Why don't human beings have cell walls like plants do? I don't know, dude.
That is strange.
So
like we had another. What was he? I forget his name, but shout out to him. He came on the show and he was talking about how that primordial soup stage.
Oh, Mason Hargrave.
Yes, Mason.
Yeah.
Shout out Mason. He was like, that initial like a soup stage for life was, you can look at it as so many iterations, like calculation cycles or whatever, where it's like you have an assortment of molecules, and then and we're talking about the span of hundreds of thousands of years of just being in a soup, and then all
Right.
of a sudden you get these like combinatronics or combinations of things that all you need is one thing
That
to get
works.
the exponential like growth. You know what I mean? But it takes if you look at age as a computation cycle, it took the universe this many
Right.
computation cycles before.
Eventually, if your probability is non-zero, you're gonna hit that number
Right.
in some
Yeah.
amount of time potentially.
yeah, that's how I see it. I'm just like, I think it was just completely random as far as I'm concerned. And then it just happened to work out that way because who knows? Maybe other like compounds were formed that were organic, but for whatever reason, maybe those just disappeared, and those that reproduced somehow became the building blocks that we find conserved across all life.
Do you think it's bullshit that there can be other like we have RNA and DNA, right?
Mhm.
But people say, oh, there are other molecules that can store genetic information. But I'm a little bit like I question that. I don't know if you
Oh,
do.
because you're thinking that there's only like one combination, is what you're saying?
Here on Earth, I only see two combinations:
Right,
RNA and
okay.
DNA.
Okay, so you're asking basically competing versions,
Yeah,
I
do
guess,
you
that
think
could exist.
like I'm sure that there were other uh, genetic molecule, I guess genetic storing molecules. I
Mhm.
guess I don't know what to call it.
Are you talking about the like proteins, like
Yeah, like
adenine, thymine,
whatever,
guanine,
Tyrone, guanine,
Tyrone Gregg?
whatever the
Yeah.
fucking names are.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm just saying like I don't know what. Some people say like, oh, there can be another planet or something,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
another part of the galaxy where you have it's not DNA, it's some other thing. Do you think
There
that
was a movie, Evolution, where they were like selenium based, or no,
Silicon.
silicon
based?
based.
Yeah.
No, it was arsenic based.
Arsenic based.
Yeah, or maybe it was either cyanide or arsenic.
Something like that, right?
And then they killed them with selenium because selenium was in shampoo. The fucked up species, they didn't like the species. They were like bad aliens or something, and they were like terrorizing the town. So they figured out a way that there was like some pattern on the periodic table, and I think it was arsenic to selenium or something. And they realized that was what was going to kill them, and they poured shampoo on the monsters.
Okay.
That's funny.
It's an old movie with like David Duchovny and Orlando Bloom from the 7-Up commercials. If you want
Great
to go
movie.
back and watch it, I liked it. I loved it as a kid. But
It's a great movie, it really is.
I don't know if it holds up anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw that. But I do think that I mean, what you're saying, like, do I think it's bullshit? As in, do I believe in it, or do I think it's like weird and fucked up? That's a thing.
Both, dude. It's
Yeah,
both.
whatever you want.
It's both questions.
Honestly, so I mean, my first one is like, if there's no reason for it to not be that way, then why not? Like our genetic information is stored on DNA, and then it's coded in a certain way that allows for our proteins and our organelles to like be produced
Yeah.
by reading it. Because like basically the ribosome is the one that's reading this stuff and saying, okay, here's what protein to make off of this, right? If there's some other parallel to it where it's like, okay, there's a sequence, I know what what biological product to make from this information going in. That's just like a difference in chemistry, and I completely accept that could be a thing. So, like, if you were to ask me across all the universe, is DNA the only thing that could work to transfer this information? I'll probably say no. Because I have no reason not to. I have no reason to think that DNA is the only one that could possibly work in every single scenario within the laws of the universe.
Gotcha.
I see.
Yeah.
Now I wonder how many different combinations. Like, could there be a number put to the different number of combinations that are
unique
possible?
solutions,
Yeah,
right, for
yeah.
this?
Like, I wonder if there's a way to narrow that down, because like, is it like 10 to the 100 like possibilities, or is it like an actual finite number that's reasonable? Like maybe there's only 38 different potential combinations if you really try to put a number to
Right.
it.
Like the combinations of what? Like the way your DNA could be coded, or
Yeah, or some way to have a blueprint to produce the output of a living type of
Organism.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, I think a chemist could probably answer that far better than I ever could. Because
Also, sorry, are ribosomes fucking like can they if you give them a string of let's say you take a ribosome from one part of the universe and put it in another part of the universe, and then they're like, let's just say silicon based
Yeah, okay.
things, and let's assume that they also have adenosine or whatever, these
Adenine, thymine.
whatever,
right.
taurine or whatever.
So
Like you're saying a ribosome can just plug and play, like boom, boom, it's gonna like.
I would say that probably not. Like, so you're saying that, say, there's some other form of
or
life,
something, yeah.
right? And they have basically the same thing that we have, except that they have a silicon-based like ribosome, right?
Right.
I don't think it would work with our DNA because, that's getting down to chemistry again. The charges and
see.
all that stuff, and the polarity of these compounds and how these things are reading.
Right,
Like,
right.
ultimately, this is all chemistry at this point,
Right.
right? Like, which like how's it kinked, the chirality, all that stuff. Like I don't. It's a
Gotcha.
it's
All
gonna
those
have
small
so
changes are going to result in a big
yes, and there's so
difference.
many differences, with like I guess the molecular weight and the charges and how strong the bonds are, how easily they can break versus like what we have here. That's just going to be so dramatically different from carbon. I don't
Interesting.
expect for it to work exactly the same. But
So
I'm
if
not.
life is any like has any like small changes, that could actually be such a snowball of difference that maybe life out there is just completely different.
Yeah, I think that it could be, and I think that like if they had what we had, maybe their system works similarly, except that they probably can't swap parts because our DNA has certain charges to it, a certain
Right.
pH that it dictates the speed of reactions and stuff. Like
Right.
there's
Kind of reminds me of like Mass Effect. You ever played Mass Effect?
I know about it. I've never actually played it though.
Bro, that's such a biologist game. Like, if you ever get a chance to play it, it's so cool. It's like, because like they even have like at the bar at Mass Effect, you can order different drinks,
Right.
but certain drinks are not allowed to be ordered by different species. Like you're human, so you can't
drink that,
You
yeah.
can't get like the I forget what the names of the guys are, but like let's say a Solarian, that's one of them. Solarian, you can't get a Solarian drink because it might kill a human.
Right.
So they have to like really like know the different drinks they're allowed to get.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it could be like even like a challenge. Like maybe there's one species who you can drink, but it's like so intense for a human. Like it's like a challenge. Like, can you drink the whatever drink?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I believe it.
It's a cool ass game, bro. I would definitely recommend that. Like if you ever wanted to or found time to play a video game,
check
like
it
Mass Effect is a badass game for science people.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's like really big.
Because it's all about the environment and the atmosphere they create is like really interesting. I'm not even talking about like the fighting mechanics or anything. It's all about just the universe they create is really cool.
Interesting. Yeah. I like games that have like a good universe and it has interesting world building to it. That's something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
I think that it's like big, but at the same time, I always try to remind people, we don't have to look up to space to think about this. We see it on Earth right now. Like, there's a lot of things that human beings can't eat. Like, if you have a dog, you can eat so many things that they can't eat. Like if you like grapes,
right.
onions.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grapes are really bad for dogs.
I heard about some guy who's, I think his girlfriend or something died because a dog ate a sub sandwich that had onions on it.
Yeah, onions.
I was like, damn.
I think what onions do to dogs, it has something to do with their blood. I think it stops their blood from being able to like pick up oxygen or something.
Whoa.
I forgot, but I just know it does something to their blood cells. So
Brutal.
Wow.
or to thin their blood. It's something, right? And it's like there's so many of those things out on here, right? If I go out there and eat like a random berry and stuff, it's weird. In a reading group that I'm a part of this semester, one of the first things we went over was microbiome. Do you guys know what a microbiome is?
It's
No.
like the like right now we all have a microbiome around us, right? Or something
So
like
the microbiome is actually the community of microbial organisms within and on your body.
Oh, okay.
So like, and you had your gut microbes, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
they're
and
chilling right now.
Yeah, the thing is, they're doing a little more than chilling because there's been several studies, right? Because people have been interested in this as we get better tools for estimating like a lot of DNA and identifying things.
Yeah.
They found so many things like certain microbes, I think, actually produce serotonin within your gut that can make you feel different. Your diet will affect.
That's why when you take I believe when you take MDMA,
You've read literature.
yeah, I've read literature on this,
Yeah.
that you feel it in your stomach first, and it almost makes you feel like you're sick in the beginning. So I've read.
so I've heard. Yes. But yeah, it's like there's all that stuff. Like you change your diet, you get a different microbiome. You go to a different place, you get a microbiome from the environment. A lot of your microbiome probably comes through your mother and what your mother had in her body when she was, carrying you around. Did you have a dog growing up, right? Were you exposed to like certain muds and stuff that allowed for proliferation of certain microbes within you that are in you right now, right? And it's crazy because they found that a lot of species, especially when they're developing at the cellular level, they don't have microbes that that a lot of people have, they don't develop properly. They've done this in like invertebrates. They see like they can completely sterilize like cell lines and stuff
Whoa.
of anything on them, and they found that they just develop differently. And
Poorly. Specifically poorly?
you know, I actually don't know if it's always gonna be poorly.
Okay.
But sometimes like to the point where they can't make it to term, depending on the
wow.
species, depending on what they're looking at.
Yeah.
It's gotten some people thinking about about life in general, right? Are you an individual? Like, are
This
you
whole
really
question.
just all you? Or is it because that you are a product of the human structure you have and the microbes within you, inside your blood, inside your gut, on your skin, that affects like your development, how well you can digest stuff, how well you can
Right.
process stuff, your mood, perhaps.
This is what the ship of Theseus is what it's called,
What do you
where
mean?
you replace parts of the ship.
ship
and
in
it's
a
like, is that
bottle?
you?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
They brought
okay.
that up in the original like concept paper that we read at the beginning when we were going over that.
Yeah.
Because are you like if you replace every single plank of wood on that ship,
Is that a new ship?
Is it a new ship?
Right.
Even if you replace it exactly how it is, right?
Right.
And so people call this thing the holobiont, right? If you're the species as well as all the stuff within you, right? Should we be treating you as a combination of all those things? You're probably like, I don't know, 1,400 species altogether.
Right.
Damn.
Or your individuals just Homo sapiens.
Right.
So we read a lot of papers and doing that sort of stuff. And it's really crazy. I can just change the structure of something and give it a different microbiome. Even if it's like chemistry and all its cells are exactly the same.
So if I change my microbiome, you could say you could really affect the psyche of a person.
So in
guess
human
so.
beings, it's kind of hard to like say one way or the other because for ethical reasons, we just can't make a bunch of we just can't get a bunch of babies and completely sterilize, bubble boy them,
Right,
and then and then
I don't think
have
that's going to pass FDA.
right.
Or review boards or
Right.
Exactly. And so like there's a lot of stuff like that. Like a lot of mammals, and actually even more than mammals, a lot of animals in general, coprophagists, where they basically will eat the poo of their mother. And
Oh,
like
nice.
baby koalas need to eat the poo of their mother, and they think it's because it helps get the bacteria and other microbes that are in the mother's poo into their own gut, and that allows them to digest the leaves because you can't digest the leaves without those microbiomes. Like if you somehow sterilized, the koala, it can't eat the process the leaves.
Wow.
So
it's so heavily dependent on that microbiome.
And there's arguments for like basically everything. I don't say basically everything, but a lot of species are like coral. A lot of times they get zooxanthellae, which are like I want to say they're algal microbes, right, within their body that helps do photosynthesis and keep the coral alive.
Bro, I'm about to put one of those. I'm about to do a fecal transplant with one of those.
No, yeah. So you've heard about fecal transplants before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was just about to mention that.
Yeah, it's just the fecal transplant. Sounds gross, but that's
something that actually is a real surgery that people do.
Because we know the we won't be able to live as we are and understand the world as we know it without the microbes that are in our body right now.
Damn.
Yeah.
That gives whole new meaning to the there's like a famous YouTube video of this kid, like, I don't know. It sounds worse than it is, trust me. It's a movie where this kid, he goes online and he's like 12 years old or 13, and he's like messaging somebody on this like instant messenger chat room.
AIM.
Yeah, and they're telling in this movie the kid's typing and he's like flirting with his older brother's, I guess, internet girlfriend, and he's like, I want you to poop in my butt.
Oh, I did. Did you show me this clip?
I don't know, maybe.
I think you did. It was actually a funny clip.
It was it's the strangest video I've ever seen in my life. Hold on, we may need to pause. Hold on,
Oh,
Jackson.
you gotta move your car.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's see the
step out,
popo.
yeah,
The
let's step
popo. Unless they're going.
Someone else got off the right side of the car. Sheriffs this sheriff wouldn't be the one taking my car, right?
No, I don't think so.
No,
They're going to the other house.
Yeah, I was saying no. That would be like parking controller.
Yeah.
I was about
you're
to
straight.
say.
Sting.
About to get a shakedown.
We're gonna go
Yeah.
down the. we go for the podcast and like live
Yeah, yeah.
action.
We got swatted.
They're talking about a kid pooping in another person's butt.
Yeah.
No, so it's like the kid says, I poop in your butt, and then it's like we poop back and forth,
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's
The kid's
like,
got game, I
this
see.
fecal transplant, like, you know what I mean? Like, it is super interesting because I'm like thinking, well, like, what if you were lactose intolerant
Mhm.
and you transplanted somebody's poop
Into you.
who could digest
Oh.
and if that
Right.
changes the environment, so where it's like now I could eat cheese.
Well,
Interesting.
the thing is,
And now I could make money because I can digest. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
You
like,
can sell your poop to people who are lactose. Damn.
well, the thing
Juan.
is, like,
now that's making money out of nothing. That's
issue,
smart.
The issue here is that you probably already got someone's microbes into you who did that. Because think about it, whenever you make out or kiss someone, or even if you're speaking around someone, all the droplets that are flying around, it's gross to
Right.
think about. Well, we know that there's going to be some transfer of spit just talking to someone this
Right.
close,
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, and people are talking about, okay, why did human beings evolve the ability to kiss? What other animals do you see that kiss?
True.
So
Butterflies. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, but it's like some people think that it might have been for immune system thing because it helped
Right.
transfer microbes or to like boost your immune system that you didn't normally get exposed to
Right.
and they're in small enough amounts because they're in saliva that they won't hurt
Yeah.
you. I don't know.
It's
Makes
so
sense.
wild because like apparently when you let's say you're heterosexual,
Yes.
your saliva transfers like testosterone. Like if you're a male,
Oh, really?
it holds like it's supposed to increase
To the woman?
to the female.
Why would that be beneficial?
I think it makes them more excited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Like there's speculation, but it's like when you're about to engage in sexual activity, I think it increases the saliva produced. It's like you salivate more. You do. It's fucking weird. Like it almost is this imperative to be like to like to kiss and whatever,
Yeah.
and make out and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
I have noticed that every time I do hook up, let's say with another girl, I do get
You start
sick.
salivating.
No, I get sick every time.
Oh, interesting.
Which I'm like, that is really kind of annoying because it's like without fail, it happens every time.
That's tough.
And I'm like, is that just because it's like I gotta catch her freaking microbiome? I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's that really is an annoying part to
So
me. I'm
foreign,
just like,
yeah.
is that not an experience for
That
you?
has
or what?
been an experience for me, but sometimes I'm like, my neuroticism almost is like, what did this person give me?
Well, I don't mean like anything too crazy. It's always
Right.
like a flu or a cold or something, but it happens
Oh,
like almost
gotcha.
without fail.
Huh.
That's interesting. Yeah,
That-
I've got no clue. I thought you were
Okay.
talking about like you feel sick to your stomach. I was like, maybe that's just anxiety.
Yeah,
They're like-
yeah.
But
No,
actually
like
flu,
I always
that's
get
different.
like a cold or
Oh,
something,
Oh,
and I get like a runny nose. I'm just like every time I get sick.
that's interesting.
Yeah, but Terrence's immune system, you say it's notoriously like, when you were growing up, you said it was notoriously bad, right?
Oh, that's true because I
Yeah.
did have a lot of allergies and asthma
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
I was in the hospital pretty much every year as a kid.
Yeah.
But that's allergies, not viruses.
I see.
So I'm not sure, but I'm
that's
not sure if this is
immune
this is
system
a
stuff, right?
common experience, people. But for me, it pretty much happens every time.
I see.
Yeah, well, you
It's
know that.
very rare when it doesn't happen.
Well, like allergies can lead to like some flu-like symptoms if they're bad enough too,
Yeah.
and there's just overreaction to something. It could be overreacting to something that they could have been around.
Maybe
or
they have
something. I don't
pets,
know.
bro. Maybe they have pets, and you're
Yeah.
just
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, dude.
Because it feels like a virus. It just feels like a cold or something. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
that's the interesting part to me because I'm like,
yeah. I get like a fever. I'll get like
really.
a fever.
maybe I'll
That's
get a fever. I'll get runny nose.
Maybe you're allergic
cough.
to women, dude.
yeah.
Maybe I am.
You're allergic to women.
The ultimate misogynist.
Oh no!
Your
Yeah.
biology says no.
right.
Reject. Yeah.
Yes.
At the base level, you're just like,
Right.
yeah.
That's
no,
hilarious.
But, I don't. That is strange. I don't have that great. Like I do sometimes get sick, but it's for like a day or two. But I'm sure it's probably this microbiome thing.
Yeah,
like,
it's gotta
Uh,
be.
yeah,
I'm
but-
thinking because
but-
I'm like maybe it's just like I'm supposed to get her sickness
No.
so that I can like become stronger. I don't
Right.
know.
Well, I'll say this too. With the microbiome stuff, this is like, we've known that microbes exist for a long time, but it's kind of a recent interest that's been gaining steam, right? Like even when you think about probiotics and stuff, notice how a lot of times they'll say yogurt has good probiotics because it helps your gut and it helps your digestion there and stuff. Some people swallow pills that are supposed to have probiotics in them, and I think those are rather recent when compared to other topics within science, because it's like microbiology, micro stuff is just like getting more advanced each year. Like if you went back to like 1908, we couldn't have the same picture of a cell that we have now. So
True.
I think that the reason why it's so it was interesting enough for us to talk about it within a marine ecology reading group is that we wonder about how this affects animals. We were really interested in is it mostly coming from the environment? Is it mostly coming from the parent? So that's like vertical transmission of the microbes or horizontal transmission of the microbes,
What is that exactly?
Vertical transmission is like means that it came from like your parents or something.
Okay.
Horizontal means that it came from, it didn't come from like someone who like gave birth to you or anything. It comes from like the environment or something else sideways, right? Like
your diet.
It makes sense.
Yeah, like viruses can insert genes through horizontal transmission, right? Like there are parts of our DNA that are likely there because way back when a virus inserted it into us. So it's like it's hard to say, and people are really interested in where does it mostly come from? Because if you're interested in the ecology or the health of something, then you're saying, okay, do we put our efforts into the environment around it? Do we put our efforts to like give it to it? Oh wait, giving it directly to it doesn't work. It needs to come through its own lineage. How do we get that to happen? How big and important is it, right? Like I told you with the human beings, we don't like, I can't tell you if a human being growing up with like no microbes in them, they probably wouldn't make it that long. They probably would die very soon, but I can't tell you either way, whether they're going to be like taller or like malformed as a human being when they grow up, so measuring how important it is and where it's coming from, it's huge topics right now. Especially when you're considering like, okay, do I look at the community within you? Or do I look at the differences in the community amongst all of us?
Interesting.
And are there any trends there? And how difficult it is to do that, especially since like you could have had different parents, you could have grown up somewhere different, your diet is different, you might have had pets or not. Your pets could have been different,
The factors are just extensive.
There's so many things going into it, and people are wondering, okay, now what part is most important for which species, and how important is it? It's just like, there's a lot there.
Right, I see. Yeah, it seems like a lot of biology is just narrowing down the question enough. Because the scope is always just so fucking big. It's like, how can I just narrow the question down to the most answerable question possible? Because it's just so hard usually because there's so many factors. It's just about getting that right question where you can actually obtain some kind of understanding.
Right. You got to find, like, out of all the things going on, what here is really useful. And I think that, whenever I read science online, like with a lot of science journalism or on the social media stuff, I'm always just like, I find that a lot of people make very concrete statements and very, like, I want to say that they say statements, like, straight up. And sometimes it gives the impression that that's like the most important thing going on there.
Oh yeah. Well, journalists are like notorious for this stuff, right?
Yeah.
The headlines,
right?
The attention grabbers. It's just like you can almost immediately know when a headline is bullshit.
Exactly.
Just by how the claim it makes.
Right. Like if they say something about stem cells, like it just goes like completely left all the time. It's like, dude, you know how much stuff is going on there.
Right.
You just can't. You know how reductive it is to say this, and then like people take it and run with it and say, I heard this and that and the other.
Stem cells cure everything.
Yeah, it was like a while back. There was something about they're talking about how compound in cannabis found to like limit coronavirus's ability to reproduce or something like that, right? Obviously, people took it as smoke weed, you're immune to COVID. You know, so it's like,
Right.
and literally it
That's
says,
all I need to hear.
Case study.
and they're like, oh,
Case study. Snoop Dogg.
exactly.
Snoop
And the
Dogg
thing-
never caught COVID. Nah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and the
Anyway.
thing is with that is that like you're getting a biological, like you're getting a plant, right? And you're saying, hey, this plant that you all know it for getting you high and stuff has this thing in it, and it's like, dude, the amount that you need in order to see that effect
Right.
is crazy. One, and two, the effect really isn't as
Challenge accepted.
crazy as you might think it is. And it's like, dude, and it's not even the psychoactive stuff, you know? And if I read the article properly, but like I said, I'm not like a human person, but that's what I gathered from what I read, right? But obviously the headlines, everyone's saying like, oh, someone on Twitter puts like screenshot of the headline alone. It says, oh, well, this is why I didn't get it, because I smoke every day and everything. It's like, dude, that's
People love using the headlines just to confirm whatever they already
Right.
believe, right?
You'd have to be 70% cannabinoid versus, and the rest microbiome.
yeah, it's like
2% human.
I'm sure there's some people who really would want to try doing that.
it's
They'll
like
figure out a way to be 70% cannabinoid.
right, and it's like it's like finding out, oh, alcohol can kill viruses, right? Yeah, I can
Yeah.
wipe something down with ethanol and like kill a virus or
Yeah,
whatever,
it's
right?
the Trump effect with
But
Clorox and bleach.
Exactly. And so someone might say, oh man, so that means when I get a cold, I should drink a lot of beer so that my BAC goes up and then it kills off the stuff in my blood. And it's
Right.
like, no, it literally will make you more
Exact
likely to get
opposite.
sick
Yeah, right.
because it's super it's super duper simplified. And within biology, you really have to say, I studied this in the context of this. This is what my thing says, right?
Right.
So like my first chapter is on the evolution of dispersal, right? And I can go on and on about dispersal for days if I had to. Right?
What is dispersal?
dispersal? The movement of propagules through space.
Yeah.
So
The
basically,
movement of what?
like any sort of propagule through space.
Oh, a
right?
propagule is something that propagates.
And so
Is that
say-
true?
So say I take some dust, right? I toss into the air.
Yeah.
It disperses.
Wait, Jackson. Hold on.
Sorry,
Yeah, there
sorry.
you
So
Oh,
I toss it in the
okay.
air. It disperses, right?
Uh-huh.
If I say, "Hey, see you later," I leave the house. I dispersed.
Okay.
Right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
So
I think we should start saying that. Dispersed.
like it's like here's the thing. Like, you know, when there are riots and the crowd goes in, they say, "Oh, we put this in, the crowd dispersed," right? 'Cause they all
Yeah.
spread apart, right? Basically,
Okay.
anything spreads for itself.
Okay.
And when you have unique units between it, because like I'll say that, yeah, I'm a unique unit that's different from you. You know what I mean?
Okay. Sure.
So, so that's what it means. But the thing is, within the
I'll get your mic.
within the context of biology, a lot of the dispersal stuff has to do with like, oh, we found an animal, right? And this animal moved away from this location to another location. How does that happen? And it's incredibly important because it dictates like where you find certain things, why certain things colonize. It has to do with like invasive species are really good at dispersing in a lot of the cases and surviving where they dispersed. But the thing is, it sounds like I'm talking about the evolution of that on like a global scale, but literally my thing is saying, hey, my critters have two parts of their body that allows for them to swim. Are these things correlated with each other at the genetic level? Does increasing head size always increase their tail size? Simple question, right? And I had to say it's only in my species. I say that in my discussion, hey, you know, even though I said that these things are correlated or not correlated, right? Reminder, if this thing doesn't behave in a way such that it wants to swim, dispersal is still zero no matter what I found here, you know?
Yeah.
And therefore, you should also study this. I'm only saying this, that there is no genetic correlation between these two traits that help it swim faster.
Right. People
But,
don't
like-
realize how specific PhD research and
Right.
science really is. It's like, I can only say this small thing about this one particular subject.
Yes.
And don't extrapolate from that unless you really have a good reasoning.
Right.
And you're careful doing that.
And I think that's what people get wrong with a lot of it because they're like thinking, oh, the scientists and everything. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
We're not your enemy. Like,
Right.
trust me, like people say, oh, the scientists are running everything. They're deceiving. I'm like, dude,
Big science
like
is at
big
it again.
science. Like, dude, that's how I know you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have never met a scientist because, because the thing is, like, dudes act like we're some hive mind. Like, people fight in science all the time.
Right.
Like, you
there's
get
literally no
labs,
agreement between anyone in science.
right? You
like,
get labs
right down
who
the
like
door.
beef with each other. My advisor always talks about. He said, "Oh, my advisor did this back there," but he's like, "But you know, he did it in such a bad way. Don't even cite that." You know, like, you know what I mean? It's like he did it, but he didn't do it in a good way. And it's not to say that his thing wasn't useful. It's just that, you know, when we started learning more and more stuff, we were like, with the microbiome stuff, like, oh man, we said this population over here is different from that one, right? Maybe the microbiome had more of a effect on it than temperature when we thought it was just temperature. But you know, people learn. That's how it is.
Right,
and we
right.
add little blips to that bubble until it eventually grows. And
more
it's like,
resolution, you're saying.
exactly. We're looking at a very small resolution for very big things. Like most scientists don't read like 80% of the papers that publish in the field that they're in, you know?
Right.
It's like,
Right.
there's too much.
Yeah, too much for
And
sure.
it's too focused, and you have to be super, like, knowledgeable about your little bubble.
Yeah.
Like, we...
Yeah.
Those scientists, don't trust these scientists. Like, who? Then who?
Yeah,
Do you know them?
It's such a good
Like-
point. Yeah, it's like you really don't understand how science works if you think
Like-
scientists are this hive mind of people. It's like couldn't be further from the truth.
Like Joe Biden, scientists. Joe Biden and Fauci came over. Actually,
they colluded.
Yeah, they colluded and they came over and slid me $800,000. And he said, "You know what, Jack?"
Right.
But I said, "Listen here, Bucko. I need you to. No, it is not like that at all. Like, holy cow! Like, you like, please, like,
we would have a lot more money if that was the case.
holy cow! And the thing is, dude, there'd probably be only like 80 scientists on the planet because like the amount of money that people act like they're shelling out to us, it's like insane. They're like, it's like, oh, you're a scientist, so you promote the Fauci ouchie to people.
There's no grand conspiracy.
It's like there is no grand conspiracy. It's like if you ask most
Jackson, you're personally installing the microchips into the vaccine.
Yes. I'm personally.
We know what's up.
I'm the agent of deception, and like I'm so powerful individually that I can influence like this as like someone who studies slug sex.
Right. It was you, the biologist.
It's like, dude, like, I want people.
We know what you really do.
I want people to understand, like, even most PhD scientists, like, yeah, you don't go. Most people should not go into a PhD for money, and most people don't go into PhD for money. You know, like it's
That's
like
the dumbest way.
it's the dumbest way.
To,
Like
to get money.
yeah, like
really
if people like the thing is like, okay, the PhD people, they should be knowledgeable enough to know what they're getting into, right? At least those who make it far enough, like eventually have to come to grips with that, right?
Right.
Even if they came in expecting to make tons of money, you can make good money.
You can make
but
good.
Like,
You don't want to say tons.
but like if you're not going to come in here saying, oh, I'm about to become like 100,000 and stuff, like immediately as soon as you get a PhD, like no, like you like.
It's a slow path to that.
They're very middle class. Like people don't realize you probably live nearby a PhD scientists. You just don't know it because most scientists aren't like the undergrads who walk around in their lab coats everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's like they're normal people. They live nearby you.
Right.
Starting postdoc is like 50, 60,000, and that's like good.
And
you
like
know?
topping out as like a university professor is like 120 at most.
120.
You know?
Yeah, like I remember back in like
for like our kind of science people though, like business people can make some serious dough, but
right. But even then
our people are kind of like we're topping around hundreds. People who have been there for 20 years, 30 years, they're topping at like 120, 130.
Right,
know?
and you have to be like, and that's like average. Like you can get some people who become a department chair and they're like 180 and stuff, but like I mean, I knew some.
It doesn't get much higher than that
250.
usually.
Right. I know a guy who does
250.
I know a guy.
Chair made like 250.
He's a scientist.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, like,
that's in the high range, I would say.
It is.
I knew this one person, right, who actually was. I think when I looked her up, she was getting like 280, but that's because she was like director for this group there, still a tenured professor at my school while doing it, right? Like department chair, I think once you get that role, basically they can't lower your salary beneath a certain amount, even after you get done with that role.
Yeah.
I knew a guy who was getting like 240 because he was like the president of some sort of like society, in addition to him being a professor, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So now his commitments also increase dramatically. So you
Right.
have to
But
take into account all of that.
But now that
information.
since he's not that anymore, he still gets like quite a bit of money because
Right.
they won't drop it down back there. And like I remember back when I was at my school in undergrad, there was a huge protest and event or movement because the university system I was in had tenure track professors making less than community college professors, but it was like within like $2,000, right? But then when you went to like and looked at the UC system, right? The UC's on the average, or was a median. I want to say it was a median tenure track salary there was like 124 or something. So, and that's in California too, you know. So it's like depending on where you are, that could be very good or very bad.
Yeah.
Right.
But if versus like you're in somewhere in Iowa, you know.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much always good there, right?
Yeah. So I think that's like, yeah, but no one goes into this for money.
No.
And if they do go into it, they're not going to the stuff that we're going into.
Right.
Like, come on,
Yeah.
dude. It's like if you're like, oh, I want to become a next big pharmacist to develop something, I'll give you that, right?
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
patent whatever, right?
Yeah.
But us,
No.
no.
Yeah. The number of years that you're in school directly correlate with how much less money you're going to be making in some sense.
Well, I mean,
it's like you hit a threshold. It's like after a certain point of school, it's like, okay, you just got yourself to making a good amount of money.
yeah.
But then if you keep going past that threshold, it's like you're really not making that much more money. I
Right,
feel
there's
like.
diminishing returns.
Yeah.
Like I think, and, you know, within biology, my field's interesting because, you know, a bachelor's doesn't allow you much agency to do what you want.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I think that people look at it as if it's almost like parallel to engineering or computer science, where you get a bachelor's, you're good.
Yeah.
And in some cases, like a business, right? Why would you get a PhD in business unless you want to teach?
Right.
Like that's basically it. Like
Yeah.
if you get masters or you get your MBA or whatever,
Yeah.
like you're already at the point where like you can pretty much do what's necessary.
Right.
Like how many CEOs say, "Oh, I'm a CEO because I have a PhD in business."
Right.
It's like asking me
That's
like,
more of a sign of you don't really know about
Right.
business if you get a PhD in business.
and it also like it's like having like political analysts. Like people who get their PhD in political science never end up as politicians, as far as
Right.
I can tell. You know,
Right.
even though they understand it. You know,
Right.
It's probably because they understand it that they don't even attempt to go there. 'Cause,
Right.
you know,
they saw the writing on the wall. They're like, oh shit.
they say I want to teach this, but I'm not willing to put myself through this.
Right.
Oh, didn't Obama? He has his PhD.
He's a lawyer.
Oh, he's a lawyer.
Yeah, he had his.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a law degree.
Law degree. Yeah.
Well, guys.
Yeah. What's our time looking like? Okay.
About 1:30. Yeah.
Okay.
My microbiome is calling.
Your microbiome.
I feel that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So we should wrap it up. Probably.
Yeah,
we don't
we
need to see
should.
that on camera.
I'm gonna dart off and
Right.
evacuate my microbiome. But, anyways, folks, don't make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe.
Indeed. And guys, make sure you check out Eigenbros.com, Eigenbros on Twitter, Eigenbros on Instagram, Eigenbros2 on TikTok, and then Patreon. Patreon. Yeah, I'm trying to get faster now with that.
Yeah,
And, Patreon.
spiel.
Yeah, and Patreon guys and gals, make sure you guys check us out. Patreon.com/Eigenbros. You know, the most we ask is at least $1 if you want to support the channel.
Yep.
And that should be it. And Jackson, you got anything that you want to plug, bro?
Not really. I'm trying to
You
stay
want
on
to
all
plug
my
your
soul.
dissertation?
Man, my
Tell
soul.
people to check out your research.
Oh god, when if it ever gets published, maybe.
Right.
If you want to learn about
Yeah.
sea squirt tails.
Yeah.
You know? So
All right.
All
Well,
right, folks. Well, thanks, Jackson, for coming on.
of course,
We
it's always a
appreciate it.
pleasure.
And we'll see you later.
see you guys.
Peace.